Hi guys, welcome to week 1 of your virtual learning. We're going to go ahead and talk about what the objectives are for this week and the learning intentions and success criteria, just like we do in a normal class. I've pulled up the critical standards for Mobile County Public Schools, and we're actually going to focus on this essential concept number 2 first. So the first standard that we're looking at this week is express a fraction with a denominator of 10 as an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100, and use this technique to add two fractions with respective denominators 10 and 100. So in English, what that means is you're going to change tenths into hundredths, and you're going to add tenths and hundredths with this knowledge of equivalent fractions. Also, we're going to work on this week that second one, the second standard NF6, use decimal notation for fractions with denominators 10 or 100. So identify the tenths place and hundredths place and represent a decimal on a number line. So again, in English, that is, we're going to take fractions and we're going to write them as decimals, and we're going to represent those decimals on a number line. Okay. So those are the objectives we're looking at this week. Next week, we will hop down to that NF7 standard. It's a little meatier, so we'll talk about comparing fractions and decimals next week. But this week, we're just looking at these two at the top. So this week, let me pull up your learning intentions. So just like we did for class, we're going to have learning intentions and success criteria. So learning intentions, that's what I want you to take away from the lesson this week. And the success criteria is those set of I can statements that let you know that if yes, you can do those statements, then you are meeting those learning intentions and you're on target for doing well on the quiz for Friday. So the first learning intention is that we're going to write fractions in decimal notation. We're going to use equivalent fractions to understand the relationship between tenths and hundredths. We're going to add fractions with denominators of 10 and 100. And we're also going to place those decimals on a number line. That's what we should be able to do by the end of the week this week. So ways to know that you have met those goals, right? If you can check off your boxes for these success criteria, then you are on track. The first one is that I can generate equivalent fractions. I can write fractions as decimals. I can show fractions on a visual model and write in decimal notation. I can add tenths and hundredths with an algorithm. I can add tenths and hundredths with a visual model, and I can write fractions and decimals on a number line. So in the next video, we will talk about all the vocabulary, and we will also go through some examples of actually doing these things so that you can really get a grasp on this week's lesson.